Welcome back to another edition of the Good Eye Podcast. My name's Jay Smack. Here we are all about attention, intention, and giving back. Having interesting conversations with intelligent people in the interest of intellectual honesty and putting some positivity into the world. So let's get right to it. My guest today is Stephanie Hathaway of Souls4Soles on today's Good Eye Podcast. Okay, welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for being here on the Good Eye Podcast. I wasn't familiar with Souls4Soles before I ended up coming to a meeting one day, and the work you guys do is absolutely amazing, and it touches so many different facets of doing good, just in general. But shoes, and correct me or set me straight here, is it only shoes, or is it also certain pieces of clothing? Because I know in some of your literature it says, you know, as far as setting people up with small businesses, shoes and clothing helps break the cycle of poverty. So just, if you could, briefly tell us a little bit about Souls4Soles and exactly what you do.
Sure. So Souls4Soles is an international nonprofit social enterprise that does collect shoes and clothing to disrupt the cycle of poverty that people are living in. There's kind of two facets of how we operate. One is free distribution. So retailers and manufacturers donate brand new shoes and clothes to us to give away to people who need them. And we do that by way of nonprofit partners, faith-based organizations, schools, people who work directly with communities who have those needs. So we know that these new shoes and clothing that are donated from our partners are going to people who need them the most. They're not going to end up on eBay and get sold later. They are really going to people who need that opportunity. They need a new pair of shoes so they can go to school or go to work. That sense of hope and dignity that comes to them is something that a pair of used shoes could not necessarily provide. So that's one facet of what we do as a nonprofit. As a social enterprise, we have a program called micro enterprise, which means small businesses. And that's where the used shoes and clothing come into play. So we essentially collect throughout the world through different regional centers, partner warehouses, volunteer-led storage spaces that collect used shoes and clothing from their communities. We then work with NGOs, which are non-government organizations, on the ground in areas where extreme poverty is prevalent. So people are used to living on less than $2 a day. There's not a lot of resources for job opportunities. There aren't, you can't just walk into a Foot Locker and buy a pair of shoes. You don't necessarily get an education. So it's kind of like, what do you do to earn an income? What do you do to support your family? What do you do to break that cycle of poverty so your kids don't have to live the same life that their parents are going through? So we take in the used product and then we sell it to the NGO at a small cost. Then they're going to sell it at a slight markup to these women from the community who need consistent income to support their families. We partner with an organization out of Colorado called Street Business School that go in and they train them how to sell, how to financial management, how to run this mini shoe and clothing store that they're going to take into their marketplaces. They're then going to go and sell the product in the marketplace. So now not only are they creating income for themselves, but Souls4Soles guarantees that we're not shipping trash over into these other countries. The used shoes and used clothes we bring in, if it's not to a certain standard, we recycle it. Don't throw it away, we recycle it. We've got partners that take care of that piece. So it's high grade, high quality shoes and clothing that go over there. So just to give you an example to put into perspective, say Mary Ann in Haiti, she is used to living on $2 a day. She houses multiple generations of her family in one home. She comes to the Haitian American Caucus, which is the NGO we partner with there, and says, I need a job, I need income, what can I do? And they say, well, why don't you start a shoe and clothing business? They teach her how to sell. They teach her how to manage her money. She's going to go into the marketplace and sell these shoes and clothing. Just one pair of shoes will generate around $10 in cash for her. And now, mind you, she was used to making only $2 a day prior to that. So selling 20 pairs of shoes is $200. $200 can provide shelter for her family for a whole year. So already you're creating an economic impact in that country while supporting this family indirectly with just the shoes and clothing that you donate out of your closet. So we like to think, we're creating this kind of network of opportunity for others that is going to hopefully disrupt that cycle of poverty that people are used to living in and going through.
That's all really amazing. And that's what I was getting at the top. The impact that an organization like Souls4Soles has. And like I said, I had not heard of it. And I listened to a talk recently about where to do the most good, where you put your effort as opposed when it comes to charitable giving or volunteerism, things of that nature. And, we like to think that we give a few dollars to a nonprofit, maybe even SPCA or something like that, and we're doing a whole lot of good. Whereas where the most good is actually done when you support an organization, and I'll just use an example, that sets up malaria nets, because you might help someone get through the day. And these are all quantifiable perspectives. This is not a judgment of quality or what anyone should do with their altruism. But you provide malaria nets, and you can save tens of thousands of people a year as opposed to helping one person get through the day. Souls4Soles is kind of like that. And for people who may not be aware or want some background, like I told you recently, I started doing some digging and saw the good that comes out of it when people in underdeveloped parts of the world don't have shoes. The medical impact that can have, parasites that can affect them on a day-to-day basis, which takes them away from their families. I mean, it's exponential, the effect that an organization like that has. You talked about corporate partners. Talk a little bit about some of the some programs you have regarding brand partnerships, corporate partners, things of that nature, and how small entrepreneurs might be able to get involved with like drop-off locations and stuff.
Sure. That's a great question. So I'll go through a few different partnerships we have to give you kind of an array of understanding of who comes to Souls4Soles and works with us. So we have a division called Clothes4Soles as well. And that was created to bring in and foster relationships with retailers that produce clothing. So Macy's is a large partner of ours. Every winter, we do a campaign with them called Share the Warmth. So it's a buy one, give one kind of situation. You buy a coat, they're going to donate one to us. I want to say I don't work directly with that partner. We have a team that handles procuring for free distribution. But I want to say this year we distributed 35,000 coats that were donated from Macy's. That's one way you can get involved if you have, clothing and shoes that is part of your business, is you can donate them to us. You can donate excess inventory. You can donate, maybe your logo got printed on the wrong shoulder, for whatever reason. You could donate that to us. It really is wide ranging in terms of apparel partners. So like here in Richmond, there's a company called Brandito. They had recently some Peter Millar polos that got misprinted. They donated them to us. So things like that. Others, DSW sets up collection boxes to for people to donate used shoes to us. And they have kind of a point system so that customers get points to be able to buy more from their stores if they donate used shoes to us. So it's sort of a win-win for everyone in that situation. If you're donating a pair of shoes, you feel more inclined to buy a new pair for yourself. So that's one other kind of large scale partner. But then we also have, the Sports Center of Richmond here. They have a box in their store or in their sporting complex, and they have a bin outside in their parking lot. It's a sports center. There's kids coming in and out, runners, people that are going through athletic shoes pretty frequently, cleats that we can, take the bottoms off, and they're a great pair of tennis shoes. That's another type of partnership. We kind of give them the resources and the marketing support. So, for instance, if you have a collection box in your store, you go to our website, you are cleaning out your closet and you want to donate, or you're hosting a shoe drive in your neighborhood, how are you going to get the shoes to us? Those partners often make accessibility to our donors more likely. So it's not only giving them some free marketing, it's giving people in the community an easy way to donate and come into their facilities. Those are a few, different types of partners we have, but the opportunities we say are endless because everyone has shoes, everyone has clothing. And if you do have a storefront, or you do have, a church that you're affiliated with, or maybe a Boy Scout group or another type of civic group, you can all do they can all do a shoe drive. It's something that we all have access to, and it's easy to be a part of. And the partners who donate space to us or donate product to us, they all help in multiple different types of ways.
And we should stress that if a local business or organization hosts a drop-off bin, that it's non-contact. They just have the bin and you can drive by and put your stuff in there and you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Exactly. And with the spread of COVID, the pandemic this year, that was a really important piece and also a challenge because we want to put bins in places, but we need good partners that are willing to let us place that bin. And so many organizations, businesses, churches, they do not want to encourage people to even come on their property in some situations. But then in others, people are like, yes, we want to do more. We want to stay involved. We want to help in the community. And this is not like everybody's gathering at once. People can drive by 24/7 to these bins that are outdoors and just drop them in. So that has been a really, really strong initiative in the past, I would say 9 months, is to get more and more bins out there. So 7 were placed in the past 8 months as a direct response to COVID. We've got 3 more and potentially 6 more that I can get to. So that's definitely something that we encourage people to support. And even places that maybe they can't host a bin, maybe they can sponsor the cost of that bin. So it's cost us around $950 to get a bin placed, from the painting, the decals, the transportation. $950 if, say, your church once supported Souls4Soles and now they're not gathering and they don't anticipate gathering and they can't get permission to put the bin. Maybe they could do a collection, monetary collection, and raise that money so we can get a bin somewhere else. The bins provide multiple opportunities for volunteers, even, the contact less piece. We have an adopt a bin program. So if you want to volunteer with us, you can adopt a bin and go empty it out 1 month on your own. We'll equip you with Lysol spray and garbage bags and everything you need. And then you bring it to our warehouse and you drop it in the bin there. So even when you bring to the warehouse, you don't have to have any contact. We realize the importance of that, right now, and that the only way we could get more donations in is if we really focused on accessibility for donors.
You mentioned the quality control when it comes to what gets donated to you and volunteerism. These things, these shoes, these clothes, they do not sort themselves. It is a lot of work. You guys always need help. Talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities and what's involved if someone were to volunteer to help out Souls4Soles.
Sure. So if you come to the warehouse and volunteer, your project will look different day to day, depending on what's in the inventory. With used product, what we do here at this facility, because we are only a 2-person team for the whole state of Virginia. So we're not at the level yet where we're really grading product, but we are sorting it and separating it. So a donation bin in a parking lot, you see a lot of random things that are not shoes and clothing. So we have volunteers that will go through those donations and pull out items that are not specifically shoes and clothing. The shoes and clothing, they get bagged up and put on a pile. Some stuff does, unfortunately, have to get thrown away that goes in a bin, things like toys, or we've had food put in, toiletries, things that we can't really do anything with. Other items like handbags and items that could benefit a homeless organization. If they're in there, we separate them and then partner with other nonprofits in the area and donate to them. So Moments of Hope takes items that could help someone living in homelessness, and then Change the World RVA. They do an annual fundraiser with handbags and purses, wallets. So we donate all of those to them so that we're not throwing it away. It's not going to waste. It's not going to end up recycled, at the next facility. That's going right back here into the community. At other facilities, the shoes and clothing get graded. Shoes, it's more simplified. A to D is the scale. A, B, and lightly used C are what we consider the higher quality, and the rest get recycled. Clothing is a little more complex, but similar to that. At the Richmond Center, we're not doing any grading, not yet. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll get to a point where we're doing more of that, but not right now. We don't have the consistency in product, I don't think, to do that quite yet. We also have retailers who donate new shoes to us that come to the facility that go into the micro enterprise program. They say, we don't want these shoes to be given away for free. Sometimes they come in case packs, so volunteers could be going through shoe boxes, taking the shoes out, rubber banding them and bagging them up. You could be breaking down boxes. You could be organizing rubber band caddies, for the volunteer stations. We also have a sample pairing program with several retailers, which is pretty fascinating. Retailers, a lot of them have sample shoes that they simply throw away. It's hundreds of thousands of shoes. Normally how they get separated is that a sales rep gets the right foot in, say, North Carolina, and then another sales rep in Arizona gets the left foot, because they don't need both shoes to go take into a store and try to get that brand on the shelves. So after they're done with them, they ship them back to the manufacturer or the regional warehouse, whatever the case may be. But you imagine there's multiple sets of these shoes being made and sent to these different sales reps. So just for
wow, so those model shoes get reunited at some point.
Yeah. So that's
you're bringing them back together. Wow.
We started it a couple of years ago. We partner with Wolverine, and they shipped us like 5 truckloads of backlog of sample shoes that they had been sitting on. And we created a system where the shoes get sorted. So you could come in and be pulling all the blue boots one day. And then the next day you could be lining up all the pink and purple tennis shoes. And the next day you could be walking around with one shoe, going through the maze of shoes, looking for the match, like the matching game kids play where they flip the apple and look for the other one.
Yeah.
So that program people either love it or they hate it.
Right.
I find it therapeutic because, you're just solely concentrating on finding a match, and you ring when you find one. So it can be fun for people, or you can hate it.
Right.
But it's cool to know that all of these hundreds of thousands of single shoes potentially have matches. So those 5 truckloads that came in a few years ago, we ended up finding over 150,000 pounds or pairs of shoes out of that, which is insane that they were there. It's just, you need the time and the labor to go through them. And it took about 7 months to do that. So it's time consuming, but we were averaging 300 volunteers a month in that time. So that made it easier to get it done. I don't think we would have that success rate right now with the slight volunteer shortage we're experiencing. And also we don't have that level or quantity of single shoes coming in right now because of the effects that COVID has had on retailers as well. So come to the warehouse, you never know what you might be helping with.
And speaking of numbers, the website says you've given away nearly 55 million shoes or pairs?
Pairs.
Wow. 55 million pairs of shoes.
55 million. That's since 2006 when we started as an organization.
You mentioned micro enterprise a few times, and you've said specifically, these women open up a shop. Why the focus on women? Because they're often head of household. How does that work? Because the website also, you guys are very proud of supporting women entrepreneurs and setting up, a women-centric enterprise, these women-centric enterprises. Why does it happen to be women most of the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the generalized answer is that the men in developing worlds are more of the laborers.
Mm-hmm.
They're working in fields or doing more manual labor jobs, whereas the women are likely trying to figure out a way to sell something. A lot of cases, the women are going to landfills and pulling out scrap metal to try to sell in a marketplace, or whatever else they can find there to sell. They might be doing more of the gardening type of work. They really don't have that many opportunities, I guess is the short answer to it. And by giving them this program, it gives them an opportunity to be able to fend for themselves, which is something that in a lot of nations, women don't have. For example, in like Honduras, most of the families that live there have maybe 4 or 5 children in the home. And typically only one of those children get to go to school. It's the oldest child, unless the oldest has a little brother, then the brother gets to go to school. So now these little girls are working with their moms.
Mm-hmm.
The program gives these kids now an opportunity to go to school, because if she's selling shoes, then she's earning enough money to be able to put more than one child in school. So it's also changing that power dynamic for these women too. Some of the entrepreneurs who have been really successful, not only are they just going into a market and selling shoes, they're hiring other women for them and to sell shoes in other markets too. So it is opportunity, I think, creation more than anything else.
I know you didn't grow up with this as your calling. It's an amazing cause and an amazing organization, but your background's pretty interesting too, as how you landed with Souls4Soles in this work. You are the director of operations of the Richmond in Richmond, but of the state, right? Of this region.
Yep.
How did you end up here? Your background, your story is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, it's a long, winding road. So I grew up here in Virginia, in the Tri-Cities, and always wanted to get out. My dream since I was 7 was to be a buyer, particularly for Macy's. I have it written in a journal somewhere. I promise I'm not making that up. I went to New York for the first time when I was 7 and fell in love with the city and fashion, and just wanted to devote my whole life towards that. And I did. I worked in every aspect of retail. You name it, I did it, from the ground up in the stock rooms to management on a sales floor to commission based to working. Eventually I moved to New York, and I started working as an assistant buyer for Macy's. When I got to New York, though, my outlook on life really, really shifted. And I started volunteering a lot. When I grew up, I didn't know what volunteering was. We didn't do that. We lived in a bubble, and this is all that existed to me. So going to New York, it really opened my eyes and my perspective. And I think the turning point for me, I had 2 very specific indicators. One, I had gotten offered to work backstage at New York Fashion Week, but I had already signed up to go to a food kitchen that Saturday to give meals to the homeless. And I chose that over working at the fashion show. The other was when I went to Paris on vacation, and I wasn't interested in anything fashion, really, and I reflected on it later and saw that or realized I was like, wow, that's big, because my whole life, this is all I've ever wanted. And when I started working as an assistant buyer, I got my master's in fashion. Everything was laser focused on fulfilling that. And I say I had a quarter life crisis at 26, and I left and came back to Virginia. Totally humbling experience. I moved in with my dad. Like, it was not something I ever expected. I'd been on my own since I was 18. So I knew it was a turning point. Something different had to happen in my life. And so I joined the AmeriCorps and tried to learn everything I could about the nonprofit world, and couldn't find a job in it. Went back to the corporate world, but doing community development now for Microsoft Retail. So I moved to Connecticut, back up north, and was teaching. I thought I was going to be able to take computers and technology into disadvantaged communities, and it didn't go that way. The job functions shifted, but
you're still angling towards still angling toward giving back. You know,
still,
you're making your way.
I was like, well, I'm giving back, but in a retail setting and space, but it just didn't jive. And I was on a 1-year contract. So towards the end of the year, I started really actively looking for something else and said, you know what, got to go the nonprofit route. I've just got to do it. And I came across Souls4Soles on LinkedIn, and there were 2 positions listed, one for New Jersey and one for Virginia, to be a regional donation center manager. Super entrepreneurial, build Souls4Soles from the ground up in this region. No real book of how to do things. It was Souls4Soles kind of approach at bringing entrepreneurialism internally more into the organization. And the connection for me immediately was that, I had volunteered in Mexico at one point, where I worked at this daycare center that was free for mothers to bring their children so that they could go find jobs. And oftentimes these kids, when they would come to the center, were barefoot, and we would have shoes there for them. And they were dirty, their feet were dirty. They, had sores on them. And these women, though, were able to bring their kids here to get clean, to have meals, to get an education, all for free, so they could go and find job opportunities. And I immediately thought of that experience in Mexico when I started reading about Souls4Soles and the mission of what we do. And so I applied, and long story short, I got the job, and I left Connecticut immediately and moved back to Richmond, and have been going strong for now 3 years. It's been a really cool experience. A volunteer and I were talking, and I said, yeah, this is never something I thought I would do. And this was in my first year. And I said, I've always wanted to work in fashion, and that was always my dream. And I can't believe now I'm here going through people's old shoes. And she said, Stephanie, you are working in fashion, but this is a level that most people don't know about and don't get to see. And they interpret the shoes and clothes that were once purchased because someone really liked it and needed it or wanted it, and would have otherwise maybe thrown away. And you're giving it new life and creating opportunity out of it. So that really has resonated with me throughout my tenure with Souls4Soles, is that all the dots did kind of eventually connect. And that even though it wasn't the route I intended or thought I would go, I'm still working in that realm of fashion and textile retail, just in a very different way. So that is my long story.
Well, you brought it full circle for me. I was going to ask if you are, actively aware. I mean, obviously it's dawned on you, but whether you see the connection inside you between fashion and Souls4Soles, a Valentino pair of shoes versus an old set of Chucks who is changing someone's life, literally. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I feel very blessed to be here and be able to do what I do, and see the community too. A lot of what I focus on is kind of sales. I'm trying to sell people on our mission and getting them to support. And why should they donate their shoes and clothes to us? Teaching people why, educating them on what we do in our mission and the social enterprise model is kind of foreign to some people. Think nonprofit, they think traditional charity, and we are not at all a traditional charity. We operate very much like a business with an earned revenue kind of a model. So it's unique and it's different, but I'm able to bring entrepreneurial skills from past and my knowledge of the industry into it, which I think has definitely helped. It's great to see the community come together for the cause too. When I came to Virginia, we were maybe bringing in, I don't know, you could say like under 10,000 pairs of shoes, which 10,000 pairs of shoes is still a lot.
What, a month?
For a year.
A year,
for the
yeah.
week. And in the first year, we brought in around 51,000. The next year was 99,000. The next year was 142,000.
Wow.
So you can see like it definitely grew probably 50 to 60% year over year. I haven't added in this last year was obviously, it's been tough because of COVID. We saw a dramatic decrease, bringing in, 30,000 pounds of used shoes per month prior to COVID to around 7,000 per month. That's a severe loss, but we still, in 3 years of having a presence in Virginia, have brought in around 450,000 pairs of used shoes. So that's 450,000 pairs saved from landfill. That's 450,000 pairs that can be sold by these women. It's mass economic impact, just because people in Virginia are cleaning out their closets and donating to us. It's so simple.
It's interesting. We keep bringing up these women. There's like an archetype or a symbol of, a woman, mother type, in an underdeveloped country that is busting her ass to get things done for her family, and by any means necessary. And it's really cool that you guys can offer that, offer that lift up, a means to get something going, because it is a unique nonprofit. And you're one of the few people I've heard mention nonprofit reps, how you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, because growing any organization is very similar, no matter whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, completely nonprofit, charity, et cetera, et cetera. And I've had some consultants on talking about growing nonprofits, and they all say the same thing. You have to look at it like a business because you're growing it the same way, with awareness and outreach and meeting your numbers and exceeding that. But it's great that you guys are having that effect, because you're right. I tell you, when I saw you speak, and I think you brought the national director in, and I did a little research. I was blown away with how much a few pairs of shoes can mean to someone trying to uplift their family with new opportunities. So at any rate, I appreciate you being here. Is there anything you'd like to add or throw out there, or contact info? I don't think we actually mentioned Souls4Soles.org. That's SOLES 4 SOULS. And I get confused sometimes, but I just think of it as shoes for people, as opposed.
That's exactly how I describe it.
Yeah. Shoes for people.
And then if you, want to get involved, like I said, there's only 2 of us here in Virginia. So you can email virginia@giveshoes.org.
Cool.
It's the
easiest
way to get in touch. We'd love to have, anyone that wants to volunteer. I've got something for everybody, from going out cleaning a bin to coming to the warehouse to playing virtual bingo. You name it. We've got something for everybody. So
cool.
Appreciate you letting us be here and learn more about Souls4Soles.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for making time. Continued good luck. I'm sure I'll see you soon. And thanks. Good luck with everything, and stay safe.
Sounds good. You too. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks so much to Stephanie Hathaway for taking some time here on the Good Eye Podcast. If you have something you want to talk about, and I can provide a platform, maybe you head up an organization that's doing some good. Maybe you have a business that's doing business the right way. Maybe you have an interesting subject. That's something I'd like to explore more of. things that you hear about that people are doing, whether it's an intellectual pursuit, maybe something a little left of center where you go, oh my God, I had no idea people were doing that. For instance, the sound healing was a big episode using sound waves and magnetic waves and electricity to facilitate healing, stuff like that. If you got any of that, hit me up. You can do it via goodeyepodcast@gmail.com or directly at j@jsmack.com. I do appreciate you listening. Please share, subscribe, tell a friend. It all helps. And until next time, support your local do-gooder and try to look at life with your good eye.